You know, most people don't realize their retirement life is shrinking until it already has. It's not because of money, not because of health, but because of a few small habits that quietly take over. And the strange part is, nothing feels wrong while it's happening. In fact, it feels comfortable. You know, at first, retirement feels great. There's no schedules, no pressure, no rush. Life slows down, gets quieter, easier. That's the goal, right? You know, but comfort has a hidden edge because over time, comfort turns into routine. Routine turns into isolation. And one day you catch yourself thinking, when did my world get so small? Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet realization that life doesn't feel as open as it once did. If you've ever had that thought, or you want to make sure you never do, this is exactly what this channel is for. Because in this video, we're going to walk through 7 small habits that quietly shrink your retirement life. And we're going to discuss how to reverse them before they can take hold. So let's just get into it. Number 1, saying no just a little too often. You know, it doesn't start as a problem. It starts with one invitation, a dinner, a trip, a simple, hey, you want to come with us? And you say no. Not for any big reason. You're tired. You're comfortable. It just feels easier to stay home. And then it happens again and again. And slowly, no becomes your default. Each one feels harmless in the moment, but they add up quietly in the background. A few months later, you realize you haven't really been anywhere. You haven't done anything. You haven't seen certain people in a long while. Your world didn't shrink all at once, folks. It just stopped expanding. I have a friend, his name's Jim. He was always social, always doing something, always the one saying, hey, let's go do this. And when he retired, he said, hey, I'm gonna slow down and I'm gonna enjoy life now. And at first he did. But little by little, he started turning things down. Not because he didn't want to go, but because he felt he didn't need to. 6 months later, I ran into him and asked how retirement was going. He paused and said something I'll never forget. He said, Brian, I didn't realize how small my world got until I tried to step back into it. Folks, that really stuck with me because it wasn't about being busy. It was about staying connected to life. You don't need to say yes to everything, but you do need to protect your yes muscle. Try this. Say yes to one thing each week that breaks your routine. Nothing big, nothing intentional. A lunch, a walk, just a quick outing. Because every yes reminds you your world is still bigger than your living room. Number 2, letting your social circle fade without noticing friendships. They rarely end with a clear goodbye. They fade, people move, life gets busy. Everyone assumes they'll reconnect later. But before you know it, your phone's quieter. And here's the truth. Friendship doesn't survive on history. It survives on attention. Without it, even strong connections weaken over time. Not because anything went wrong, but because nothing happened at all. Start small. Reach out to one person. Just one. Hey, I thought about you today. How you been? That's it. Because you're not reconnecting with them. You're reconnecting with that part of your life. Number 3, living in safety mode. You know, instead of living mode. At first, safety mode feels smart. You become more careful, more selective. You avoid wasting money, effort, or energy. And that makes sense. But over time, your decisions shift. They stop being about what you want to do, and they start being about what you're trying to avoid. You avoid discomfort, effort, you avoid risk, and slowly, life gets smaller. Folks, but here's the truth. A life without risk, it isn't safer, it's just quieter. You don't need big adventures, just small disruptions. Try one new thing each week, a different route, a new place, a simple change, because every small stretch reminds you you're still allowed to explore. 4, letting your home become your whole world. Folks, home's a gift. it's comfort, it's safety. But when it becomes the only place you experience life, your world starts to shrink around it. Days blur together, same space, same routine. And time feels like it speeds up. Not because time changed, but because nothing around you did. Break that pattern. Step outside once a day with intention. Even if it's just briefly. Sit somewhere new. Walk somewhere different. Because, folks, movement isn't just physical. It tells your mind life is still happening beyond your walls of the living room. 5, putting off the fun stuff until the right time. This one sounds responsible. Oh, I'll do that later. When things settle down, when I feel more ready. But later has a way of never arriving. And over time, the things you meant to do become things you never did. Pick one thing you've been putting off, just one, and schedule it this week. If it matters to you, it deserves a place on your calendar. 6, letting small problems pile up. Small problems don't feel urgent. A little clutter, a delayed task, something you keep putting off. On their own, they're nothing, but together, they create weight. Not heavy enough to notice right away, but enough to drain your energy over time. You don't need to fix everything, folks. Just choose one small thing each day. One task, one space, one loose end you need to tie up. Because clarity doesn't come from big changes. It comes from small reliefs that are repeated. Number 7, losing your sense of direction. I know we've talked about this before. This is the quietest, and it's the most powerful. It doesn't feel like a problem. It feels like nothing, really. You wake up without anything pulling you forward. There's no urgency. There's no excitement. Just time passing. And when that happens, life doesn't feel smaller because what's around you. It feels smaller because what's missing within you. I read a comment recently that said, I've only been retired for 2 weeks, and I already find myself saying, well, I'll do that tomorrow. And then I don't do it. Folks, that's how it starts. You don't need a massive purpose. You just need direction. Something that makes tomorrow slightly different than today. A project, a hobby, a goal, something you want to improve. Because direction gives your time meaning again. Retirement life doesn't shrink all at once. It happens quietly through habits that feel harmless in the moment. But here's the good news. The same way it shrinks is the same way you get it back. One small yes, one conversation, one thing you stop postponing. You don't need a total reset, just a shift. Because this stage of life isn't meant to get smaller, folks. It's meant to open up. So don't wait for the perfect time. Pick one thing and start today. Because a year from now, your life will either feel smaller or it's going to feel bigger. And what you do next will decide that for you. Folks, if this hit home, the next video in the series is why retirement still feels unsettling, even when you did everything right. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. Again, I appreciate everyone for being here. I'll see you in the next video. Y'all take care.